Hi, everybody. I'm John Self, and welcome to Career Live. We are a weekly program that focuses on career and on other aspects of the job search strategy. So we're going to wait a minute for just about everybody to come into the room, and we'll be kicking off just shortly. So thanks for your patience. It takes a few minutes for people to get in play here. So everybody to come into the room, and so I'm turning down all my monitors so that we don't get any feedback and that you don't pick up an echo. As I said, I'm John Self. This is Career Live. It's a weekly live broadcast with information and insight on career management and job search strategies. Now, Career Live, we target supervisors, managers, and executives. We're not saying if you're not in that category, you can't listen, obviously not. But the reason we do that is we target the program because the advice regarding resumes, job search strategies, and social media activity is very different for those people versus, say, an hourly worker or an entry-level staff support person. But I'm happy to take your questions. I've made presentations to a wide variety of groups over the years, but that's kind of when you hear our first advice or you hear us address a question, understand it's probably geared towards supervisors, managers, and executives initially. If you are not in that category and have a question, please put it in the chat. And we will try to answer your questions. Now, today we're going to discuss prepping for a site interview. Yes, those still are a thing, although recruiters are using videos, closed circuit, such as Zoom and meetings and things like that, Skype and others, to reduce costs and expedite the search process. So today we're going to zero in on the physical site visit. In other words, where you have to get on an airplane or drive to visit with the people that you're interviewing with. Secondly, we're going to talk about a facet of your job search that is frequently an afterthought for so many applicants: your references. These people can be enormously valuable to you in the search, not only because they're going to give you a favorable review, hopefully, but they can also provide insight that will help you do a better job interviewing. And then before we start taking your questions, I'm going to share 3 interview goofs that I think you will enjoy and hopefully you will avoid. Today's broadcast is produced by Guiding Your Career, a comprehensive online and on-demand career management and job search strategy site. Access Guiding Your Career, affordable courses and free information at johnself.com or through our YouTube channel. We are a coaching platform for supervisors, managers, and executives. Our advice is tailored for you, not the generic templates and job search guidance that that's the sort of bread and butter of so many other sites. So when we give you something, if it doesn't exactly line up with where you are, please ask. I'll clarify it, but that's what we are set to do. Okay, so let's get focused right off the bat and talk about the site interview. Now, Steve Harvey has made a household brand out of the phrase "survey says" on his long-running hit game show Family Feud. Well, a recent survey says that 42% or more of managers and executives in the job market get nervous regarding the job interview. Now, let me tell you, that nervousness can, at worst, cost you the job offer or lead the prospective employer to make a lower compensation offer. So it's really important that you do a good job and try to nail the job interviews. Again, it's not just showing up and answering questions. It's showing up and contributing in a way that is meaningful, that produces confidence, that produces they like you, they trust you, they think you know what you're doing. So let's think about job interviews. And step 1 in preparing for the site interview is to prepare for the site interview. Now, I got to tell you, I used to produce these very in-depth, detailed prospectuses for my candidates when I was an executive recruiter. And it was amazing how many times people would show up, and I'd always say, are there any questions you want to ask? And that first two or three questions would be things that were right within the first 3 or 4 pages of the prospectus, which said they didn't read it, which is not, that's not something that you want the recruiter to realize, that the information they've given you, you haven't taken the time to study it. So sometimes you're going to get really good information and sometimes not so much. But look over the summary of that document and really, really dig in to try to figure out what the client, what the prospective employer is looking for. You want to research the company and its culture. That's really important because, the reason that a lot of people don't succeed when they've been recruited from outside an organization is they run afoul of the culture. The numbers on bad recruiting it's pretty amazing. 40% of those that are recruited from outside an organization are gone within 18 months, according to Gartner's research. And so understanding the culture is really important. So you need to do a good job digging into that so that when you're asked, do you have any questions? You will have some questions to ask them about the culture. You need to understand it. You need to really understand what they're looking for in terms of skills and accomplishments, and then begin to anticipate questions you will be asked. And everybody says, how the heck can you do that? Well, it is something you can do. I'm going to tell you about a free giveaway we have in a few minutes that you can get access to, and that'll help you prepare for the interviews. But this kind of really comprehensive, deep approach to the job interview can really help you corral your nervous jitters and be more self-aware and more effective during the interview. In today's market, with so many people applying for jobs, and the intensity for management and executive positions it's really mounting. You can't afford to be invited to an interview and then not nail it. I mean, you may apply to 5 or 6 or 10 jobs and only get asked to interview 3 or 4 times. So when you get those interviews, you can't afford not to be prepared. I mean, to the max. You cannot afford to do that. You can't afford just to show up and be kind of casual and just answer questions. You will not be picked, more than likely. I mean, it's highly improbable that if you just show up and answer questions that you're going to get selected, unless you have a really good inside path with a lot of good connections in the company. So you need to prepare, and it's really, really important that you do that from culture to understanding the job to thinking about the questions you're going to be asked. So that's why we are making our copyrighted core and categorical interview prep tool available to you for free. Now, this download comes with a site visit checklist, and if you feel you need some additional support, you can schedule a free 30-minute Zoom or telephone call with me to help you get ready to hit the ball out of the park. Once you figure out how to prep for a job interview, it is going to change your whole approach and accelerate your career. People hold themselves back because they don't understand that job interviewing is not like standing up and making a presentation. It's not like giving a PowerPoint presentation. It is one of the most unique forms of communication. You don't have to be the smartest guy or the smartest woman. You don't have to be the most articulate person. You don't have to be the most handsome or beautiful person in the crowd. You don't have to be the person who has the best pedigree in terms of education and where you've worked. What you do have to be is capable, and you have to come across in a very believable, meaningful way and sell your value. Help that company understand your experience, your value, and how you can help them improve their organization. This is really essential today. And it takes so much work to get to the interview, you don't want to waste the opportunity. Now, our clients who have used this tool said it really helped them to go to the next level in terms of interview performance. So visit our YouTube page and click the link in the top right corner of the header document, that blue stripe across the top that says, we want you to become the job applicant everybody wants to hire. Or you can go to johngself.com, go to the footer in the right-hand corner and click the Get Started, Unlock the Access button. And you can download this form, which it's self-explanatory, but I'm happy to take a call or answer your emails. to help you learn how to use this form. It will make a meaningful difference in how you interview. People said they were more confident and they were more self-aware when they went to the interviews because they had gone through this level of preparation. And self-awareness is really important. When you're really nervous and you're trying to anticipate the next question and you have the jitters, you're not going to pay attention to certain opportunities. They may ask you something and you've picked up the high points of the question, and you may miss a little nuance to that question that if you pick up on it might make the difference. I mean, I have seen job interviews turn on some of the smallest things where somebody came in and just did a good job recognizing certain little minor things and then use that to their advantage. Now, you can get access to this and other free materials at no cost. Now, I promise you may be asked to give us your email address. I promise you we will not bombard you with hourly or even daily emails as so many coaches do. They say, we're not going to spam you, and then you're getting 8, 10, 12, 15 emails a week trying to pressure you to do this or that. I'm in business to sell courses, absolutely. But we believe that we have a low-cost approach, maximum value, and hopefully you'll help us build our business and use some of our services, but we're not going to beat you over the head with it and clog up your email with a bunch of high promotion emails that you don't have time to read. So here's some information that I think you will be able to draw out of this free form. First of all, do not assume the style of dress for the interview, for the site interview. It may be business formal or it may be business casual. Hint, not everyone's definition is the same. So specifically what applicants for this title in the organization usually wear. You can ask the recruiter. It's probably a better thing to ask the executive assistant who's coordinating the logistics for your interview. How the hiring manager usually dresses. That's an important thing to ask. The person that's going to make the decision on who gets the job, how do they dress? Another tip is upscale your attire just a bit. So if the recruiter or the EA explains it's business casual and they say for men golf slacks and a golf shirt, as an example, then maybe wear a blazer with the golf shirt. I think that's something that you can just that's a little safety piece that you can add. And for women, a nice jacket with your dress, whatever works well for you. 2, double check the hotel address and get a copy of the reservation number. In today's market, Hilton, there's not just one Hilton. Gosh, there's tons of different brands within that hotel chain, and there are dozens of locations within a certain brand. So they have something called True, and some cities have 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 True hotels, and some of them, some of them may be in close proximity to your employer. So you want to be sure that you have the specific address and the number. Because if they've made a mistake, having that reservation number can save you a lot of aggravation, especially if you show up late because of a late flight and it's night, you're ready to go to bed, and they say, oh, we don't have any rooms. Having that information is really, really important, because if you don't, sometimes you're given the short end of the stick. I've had that happen to me early in my career back in the 70s, and the hotel, I went to the wrong hotel. This one was closed, so that kind of threw me. The third thing is, if you're interviewing in the morning, always travel the day before. In fact, if you are traveling on the same day, be advised that that's the day you're going to have bad weather that disrupts your schedule, or maybe even force cancellation. It's just the law of unintended consequences. So even if you've got a 2:00 meeting that afternoon, it's always a good idea to travel the day before, the evening before, so that you're in town, you're in place, you get to the hotel, you're not rushed, and then you have a chance to have a very systematic approach to get to the interview site well in advance of the scheduled time. So, it's really, really important to plan your travel to get there in advance. And if you're dealing with somebody who says, oh, no, they have flights all day long, try to go the day before. Try to say, look, it makes it more sense if there's any bad weather or any mechanical issues. That's just something you want to do. Now, another thing that that has changed a lot lately is that there's a whole slew of these. Every brand from Envoy, Marriott to Hilton to others have multiple brands under their company. Some of these brands are really are lower cost providers for people who are businessmen and women who are traveling. And part of why they're able to charge less for those hotels is that they don't have full service. They may have a breakfast buffet, they don't have a gift shop, some of those other things that full service hotels have. And so without a gift shop, if you forget to pack something, that can really be problematic. I can't tell you how many times years ago I would see candidates that I knew were interviewing with me later in the day buying a tie in the gift shop of the Marriott or the Hilton or the Hyatt. So when you're packing, even if you're a veteran traveler, as I was, I mean, I was, I don't know if you could get any more veteran than all the travel I've done since the mid 70s. Even if, it's always a good idea to make a checklist, especially if you're interviewing for a senior level role. Wearing shoes without socks or cuff-link shirts without the links, or a stylish dress sans the belt that makes the outfit perfect for women, that can really disrupt your confidence. So be sure that you take extra precaution to be sure everything is set. You always want to wear that outfit that is reflective of the style of dress that you're told to wear, but you want to wear something that really fosters your confidence, and you look good in a certain outfit. And that's why I suggested, maybe a blazer. If you have a really good fitting blazer, that just adds a little polish for women and for men. So, but you want to be sure that you've checked your wardrobe as you're packing. I know people who get the suit out of the closet, fresh from the dry cleaners, and put it in their bag. And the problem is the dry cleaners had a pinstripe suit, a blue suit, and a gray charcoal suit, and none of the pants were on the right rack. And so now you have somebody interviewing for a high $300,000 a year job in a blue suit with gray pinstripe pants. Not a really good look. So it's just pay attention to those little details. It has happened. Don't think that this is just stuff we conjure up. I mean, this is based on real life up-ups. So you want to be sure that you're not cocking up with your attire. Now, 5, prepare. Do not just show up and answer questions. That will not get the job done in today's job market. So really prepare in advance. Really be a comprehensive approach, and we really want you to really be prepared. If you get invited to a site interview, it's because they really want to hire you. So you have to give them a reason. You don't want to just show up and just kind of make a best effort. So plan in advance. It's really important, and it'll really make a big difference. Now, finally, when you finish up the interview, close the deal. Do not leave them guessing whether you are interested or not. If you're dealing with a recruiter, you can say, I'm really interested. I really look forward to next steps. This is something that really is exciting. Even if it's not, you don't want them to make the decision. You always want that decision to be yours to make. And so that's what a recruiter's for. You can always tell them, I've had second thoughts about this. Would you let them know I'm withdrawing? That is perfectly fine. Okay, but you got to close the deal. If you're on site and you're going to say, well, I'll decide whether I want this later, that may be what gets you kicked out. Okay, let's move on. Recruiting your references, okay? The references, you need to vet them, okay? Because you can't be sure what people are going to say. So talk to people and say, look, I'm in the market. Would you mind being a reference? Pick people who can speak to your skills. Pick people who can talk about the things that you're going to be asked to do in the job. Now, a lot of recruiters, a lot of people, they kind of sit and say, hey, just give me 3 references. Always submit 4 because there's going to be somebody who's not available, okay? So submit 4. And here's what you do. If you are a manager or an executive, always pick people that you work with. Don't put character references or academic references, even if you were finishing up a degree. you want work-related references, okay? And you want those references to be able to speak and answer the questions. Because if a recruiter asks questions and they say, well, I can't speak to this or I can't speak to that, and these are questions related to your ability to do the job, those are not going to come across as good references. So you want to know what they're going to say. You want to be sure you're picking your references carefully. And if you interview your references, that's going to help you get prepared for the interview. So vet your references carefully. Don't just take a guess at what they're going to say. Hoping for a favorable report is a rather silly job search strategy in this market. They must be able to speak to your employer's skills, and that is a big problem. Okay, so let's now talk about some funny interview goofs that I hope you never do. I had a CFO person really played an important role for a big market for an investor-owned healthcare organization, and he had gotten crosswise with his boss and was in the market, and we were doing a CFO search for a big, large county hospital. And he had been very thorough, very careful about following up. And then he sent an updated resume to me about 30 minutes before he was due to arrive at the hotel for the site interview, my screening interview with him, which was about a 2-hour, pretty intense, detailed interview. He misspelled his name in the contact information at the top of the resume. And the reason I know that is because when I opened the resume, Microsoft Word put that little red squiggly line underneath his name, and I thought that couldn't be right, and went back and pulled up his contact information and his file, and he in fact just made a mistake. He wasn't paying attention. Everybody makes spelling mistakes. You make little mistakes in the resume. That's fine. Misspelling your name and then getting very angry that they didn't do it when it's clearly misspell. He really hurt himself by being being careless and then being very arrogant and very aggressive about it. Okay, so that is, pay attention to the details and don't misspell your name. The next goof came when apparently one of these was a vice president position. He had apparently not had lunch. He was a younger candidate, came highly recommended, had done a good job in his screening interview, but apparently he did not get lunch. And so when he showed up, it was a guy, so I had a junior suite, so I was going to interview him in the living room of my suite, and he came in and he had a pizza box and a bag with a 6-pack of beer. Yeah, believe it or not. Apparently he'd missed lunch, and he always liked to have a beer with his pizza. So there he was sitting at the table in the sitting area. While I was trying to interview him, he was gulping down pizza and guzzling beers. Not a good look. Okay, so don't bring food. Matter of fact, if you have a Starbucks coffee that you've bought in the lobby or you brought with you, lose it before you go into the reception area where you're going to be interviewed. And the other thing you want to remember is when you're on site, as soon as you drive on the parking lot, just assume that all eyes are on you. I know that can be sort of an arrogant thing to say, but when you get careless, that's when somebody pays attention, and you don't want to come across as being a little bit arrogant, a little bit confrontational. I've seen people badmouth or be very rude to the receptionist, and that cost them the job. Okay, so we talk about business attire, and we talk about, being appropriately dressed. Well, you're going to love this one. A leading civic leader in Tyler asked me to interview a daughter of a friend, one of his work colleagues. And I thought, okay, she sounds kind of interesting, and comes from pretty good stock, so I'll be happy to do it. Well, I heard that there was a little bit of commotion in the lobby and wasn't too sure what to make of it. So my office was a long hallway, and it was glassed in. It was a glassed-in office. So I walked around the corner, and here's what she was wearing. She was wearing a very tight skirt, a bustier, and not much else for her ample figure, and some inappropriate shoes. I mean, they were almost like running shoes. And I got to tell you, I have not had that much traffic come by my office during a job interview in my history. I mean, it was a traffic jam. So use some common sense. I know that that's sort of a misnomer, but you want to be sure you dress appropriately. That one was by far in 27 years of recruiting so far over the top that it was, I just couldn't believe it. So dress appropriately. That made for an interesting day. And it was interesting, my boss criticized me for why should I allow her to come on site inappropriately dressed, go figure. Okay, we've had a few questions come in. If you have questions, you can drop them in the private, in the chat. How should I approach recruiters when I want to advance my career? Okay, that's a great question. First, recruiters only handle about 30% of 30 to 35% of all the job placements. Okay, so it's great to have recruiters that are connections, but understand recruiters are client-centered for the most part. There are some that will work for candidates. They're very expensive, but for a fee, as like a manager, they'll try to go find you a job, and then you're going to pay $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 in a fee for that. Some of them less, some of them more. But recruiters work for the client. So if they need you, if you have a connection with a recruiter, he's not going to go try to find a job for you. If he has one that he's doing the work on, then and he thinks you're a good match, then he may include you in the mix. But he's not going to make a bunch of phone calls unless he's a contingency recruiter, and that's just part of what they do with their clients. They try to market candidates. So, the best way to get a job, is to build a network, and that network can include recruiters, but don't depend on recruiters to find your next better job. Okay, so that ties into this question. What is the best way to find a job? Well, the best way is not the fastest way. If you just apply online, whether you're an executive or a manager or the odds are about 150 to 1. Okay? Now everybody talks about, whoa. There are more jobs than there are people, and that's the reason we're able to move around so easily now and make more money and get better benefits. That's true. There are currently more jobs than there are people looking for jobs. However, the Fed increased the interest rate yesterday. There's going to be a higher cost for business to borrow money for credit lines and other corporate functions, and there are going to be some more layoffs. And a lot of companies, instead of just getting rid of people, what they'll do is get rid of unfilled jobs. So right now there is probably about 1 million jobs in excess of the number of people who are actually in the market looking. Based on my experience in the past with past recessions, specifically 2009, which is probably the last big one we've had. So a lot of you in the millennials and Zs have not had that experience before. Those jobs can disappear in a heartbeat. I mean, you can have 1 million extra jobs to have that be split the other way, go the other way. So you want to build a network. And that's probably your best way, because if you are just applying online and hoping that's going to get you to the finish line, it's 50 to 1 odds. That's terrible. If you have working with a recruiter and they're recruiting you, that's about 32 to 1. If someone recommends you to the CEO or to the hiring manager, or you have somebody in the community that knows somebody on the board or whatever, and you get recommended into the organization, that drops the odds to about 16 to 1. Still pretty bad odds, but that's the best odds you're going to get. So what you really have to do now more than ever is build a network. Now, there's a reason this can be kind of challenging. You got to be very strategic. We call it strategic networking or networking 3.0. And here's why. There is something called the Durham Rule. The Durham Rule is based on Robin Durham, who is a British archaeologist who concluded in a study of mammals that the human brain can only manage effectively about 150 connections. Okay? So, I have a lot of connections because my marketing strategy is much different than your strategy, which is to find a job. So I'm doing mass marketing, whereas you're trying to build relationships for a future better job. And the max number you can do that effectively with is about 150. Now, keep in mind, it's real easy to click that button and get a bunch of connections on LinkedIn really in a hurry. Connections don't get you jobs. Now, yes, will lightning strike? Could, absolutely. People get struck by lightning a couple of times a year, and it's not that often. But what the situation is that you want somebody who's going to refer you, and those referrals are based usually on trust and respect and knowledge of who you are. I'm not going to risk my reputation referring somebody who may show up to an interview wearing a bustier with everything that she has hanging out. That's not going to be good for my brand or my image. And so I'm going to refer people that I know and trust, that I know have done a good job in the past, that I know are cutting edge, that are on top of their game. So you have to build relationships. LinkedIn is a good way to do that, because it's cheaper. You don't have to go off to all these expensive annual meetings. Healthcare people now are in Chicago. They wrap up, I think, today. And if you went to the Congress, there'll probably 5,000 healthcare people in Chicago. That probably cost you, with enrollment, somewhere between $2,500 to $3,000 or $4,000 to make that trip. That's a lot of money for a one-time-a-year networking opportunity. LinkedIn allows you to do it on an ongoing basis. So yes, you want to build connections, but you can only build relationships with a few. So you have to be very strategic. So when you are thinking about moving your career forward, you have to ask some hard questions. For example, I work in a town of 100,000 people. There are 2 hospitals in this community, and I'm using hospitals as an example. If I lose my job, the chances of finding another job in this town at that level, making that kind of money, are not very good. Even it's better in a place like Houston, which has the largest medical center in the world and a very robust healthcare community. Dallas, not as much, but certainly better than, say, a Longview, a Tyler, or a Mineral Wells, or Waco, or something like that. So there are going to be times in your career where you may have to move, especially if you say, I want to run a manufacturing plant and you have an area of specialization. You're probably going to have to make 3 to 4, maybe 5 moves in order to move up to get your ultimate goal. Or if you get caught by an unexpected layoff through no fault of your own, you may have to move to find a job making equivalent to what you've been making. So you want to set up your strategy, sit down with your spouse or your partner and say, okay, if we're not going to be able to stay here, where are we going to go? Where would you like to go? And those can be great conversations, because then you can say, in order to move my career forward or move your career, the spouse's career forward, you have to now say, where do we want to live? We've always wanted to live in the Mountain West. Are there career opportunities there, that places where I'd like to work that would, allow us to move in that part of the country? Then you target 2 or 3 or however many relevant employers are that might be able to align with your experience and your expertise and your track record. And then you start connecting with people in those organizations and around those organizations. And then you start building relationships. And that takes time. And a lot of people lose their job, and that's when they start networking, and that's just really dumb. So start networking now. Somebody the other day said, hey, John, I just got my new job. When should I start think about getting back in and picking up my networking again? And I said, today. Well, what do you mean? I just got a new job. Today, because you're constantly having to look ahead. Our economy's changing. Technology is going to radically alter how some jobs are handled in the future. Something called GPT, GPT 4.0. I mean, these are going to disrupt some jobs, and so you have to begin thinking about taking a more strategic view about your career. So I hope this has been helpful information today. Thanks for the questions. We'll be doing another live at 11:30 on Instagram. We'll be doing another one later this afternoon on Facebook, and then tonight at 7:30 on Washington's favorite site, TikTok. So thank you for watching today. Now, we are going to be fine-tuning our schedule. We're going to be, we are really putting a lot of resources with YouTube, giving it search engine power and its referral base, so that we may alter our schedule and alter our alignment, but we'll keep you informed when we make that change. And you can always email your questions to me at john@johngself.com or schedule a free call. I'm not going to try to sell you anything. We just want to be helpful and help you get your career grounded and going forward in the right direction. So, thanks for your time today. Cheers, everybody. We'll see you next week.